Howdy folks, and welcome back to Making a Psyduck of Every Type, the show where you would not believe what we do. This is now the 6th episode of our series, and in the previous 5 episodes we've made... oh gosh, here we go again. We've made Psyducks that were Bug type, Dragon type, Kinda Fairy type, Fire type, Flying type, Ghost type, Grass type, Ground type, Ice type, Water type, Steel type, Psychic type, Poison type, and Normal type. Oh, and Neuron type, Unknown type, Bird type, and the Pixel type. Jeez, we're actually really close to making a Psyduck of every type, so let's jump right into the next one. To the drawing board! So, for this Psyduck, I wanted to make an electric type one. However, I really struggled to think of what to do with an electric type Psyduck, or at least an original idea. I know I could have gone with a malfunctioning robot or a corrupted glitch or something, but I've already got plenty of Psyducks what are already robots, malfunctioning viruses, or corrupted glitches. I wanted to think of something new. And then I thought of something what every other Pokemon fan has done. Who remembers Pokemon Fusion? Whether it's the Pokemon Infinite Fusion fan game or just the Pokemon Fusion website. For those who don't know or remember, Pokemon Fusion was a website what did just that. It fused two Pokemon. One Pokemon would be the body and the other would be the head and the colour palette. I remember it being a very popular thing a few years ago, and a lot of Pokemon fans who were artists enjoyed making Pokemon Fusions and then redrawing them. So to honour that old tradition, when starting this series, I did know eventually I would like to do a Psyduck Fusion. And considering I couldn't think of an electric type Psyduck, I thought what better opportunity then to fuse Psyduck with an electric type. And after messing around with Pokemon Fusion for like 10 minutes, I found 3 fusions I knew I wanted to do. The 3 possible fusions I had were Frostrotom, Magnemite, or Arctozolt. One was funny, one I had an interesting idea on how I could do, and the third one was Arctozolt. I ended up going with Arctozolt. Why? I just kind of like Arctozolt. I like its body shape, plus it's got a very sympathetic story to it, which so does the regular Psyduck, it always having a headache and all. Plus the original idea I had was this Psyduck was going to have Arctozolt hands, which are really small, so the idea is it's got a headache but it can never reach its own head to hold it. I didn't end up using that idea because I wanted to give it more Psyduck attributes. I guess the interesting thing here is that it's not just a fusion between Psyduck and Arctozolt, it's a fusion between Psyduck and the 2 half fossil fusions what make Arctozolt in the first place. So I had to try and balance and include enough of the Arcto, enough of the Zolt, and enough of the Psyduck. Whether I did a good enough job, it's up to you. I think I did. I also like how it looks like it almost could be a pre-evolution to Arctozolt. I guess if it just had a smaller head. But either way, here is the fused Psyzolt. No, that doesn't work. Psyzolt? Psychozolt. Psychtozolt? Sure, that's its name for now, why not? The electric type, Psychtozolt. The only problem though is looking at it, it still looks like an electric ice type, but then what happened to the Psyduck's water type? And then the other part of me is like, well, the Psyduck water type froze into the ice type here, so maybe it's an electric ice? It's probably electric ice, but it might also be electric water. I don't know. Let me know what type you think this should be. And in the meantime, I'll get started on the next Psyduck. So, who remembers the Flash game Duck Life? Oh yeah, we're going deep for this one. For those who don't know, I'm very sorry for your loss. Duck Life was basically a pet raising game where you got a pet duck, you raised it, you fed it, you played minigames with it, you raised its stats, and then you got to enter it in races, so it could use those stats to win races and prizes and become the world's best duck. It's a game I hold near and dear to my heart, so when making a Psyduck of every type, I thought it wouldn't go amiss to at least reference Duck Life. More specifically, Duck Life 3 Evolution. The gimmick here was quite interesting. Instead of just raising the same duck, you could pick one of 4 ducks. And after certain points, your duck would evolve, and depending on what type of duck you chose, it would evolve differently. And since normal type, flying type, and water type were already taken, I thought this would be a perfect fit to make the fighting type Psyduck based on the strength duck. So, looking at the reference from Duck Life 3, there's not too much to go on. It's a beefy duck. So, I just made it a beefy Psyduck. When sketching out the body shape, I wanted to make it look more toned, rather than Psyduck's relatively rotund body, let's say. And in doing so, I kind of gave it a body what kind of looks like, I want to say like Peking duck, or the type of duck you eat, which, that compared to its orange colour, it looks like the spicy duck special you'd order from a Chinese takeaway, which maybe it would explain why I was so angry? I kind of want to look at it more as a coincidence though, as we already have a somewhat funny Chinese restaurant spicy duck Psyduck anyway. Because fighting type is such a strange type, it's not really an element, it's more of a state of being, like you're physically strong, right? It's kind of strange to compare that to Psyduck, where its idea is it gets psychic powers from headaches. How can I make that into a fighting type? How can I get fighting powers from a headache, right? One idea I had was, instead of it getting psychic powers from headaches, it gets psychic powers from arm aches. Because, you know, when you work out hard, the next day you always wake up really sore. Maybe that's how Psyduck's arms always feel, because he's always training them. And because they're always sore, they're always exhuming psychic energy. So this could be like a regional variant, where instead of Psyduck getting a headache, he uses his psychic energy channels into his arm ache, where he uses to punch things with extra psychic energy, I guess? Sure, why not? I'm not too great at drawing perspective, so I don't know how obvious it is, but I think the pose I'm giving it is that its legs are kind of extended a bit to make him look a bit more imposing. He's leaning a bit forward as if he's kind of like squaring up to you, like, what did you just say to me, kind of thing, you know? I also like how I made his hair kind of like tie up to make it look like those bandanas that most fighters wear, at least in media. I don't know how realistic that is, but... So, this is the fighting type Psyduck. You'll have to let me know what you think of this one. It's a bit simple, but I think it gets the job done. It's weird to think, because if I didn't make this as a reference to Duck Life, I don't know what I would have done for a fighting type Psyduck. So, if you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. And if not, well, I hope you enjoy the next Psyduck, the fairy type one. The fairy. I don't know why I said fairy, like weirdly. Now, I made a Psyduck what could rather be a normal flying or be a fairy flying. However, I'm going to make a 100% fairy, so regardless of what type that ends up being, we still have a fairy type anyway. Designing a fairy type was hard, and in my Fakemon series, I don't really have any fairy types, so it's not really a thing I've even had any practice or prior experience to. So, for the sake of this Psyduck, I included the elements of it being bright pink, using bright colours, borderlining on feminine elements, making it a lot softer, giving it some food-related anatomy, and that was it, I think. I like the idea that instead of having psychic headaches, this Psyduck has Fey magic headaches, so magical headaches. And instead of regular Psyduck dispelling its headaches with psychic powers, this Psyduck gently excretes its magical powers out of its head slowly, which turn into magical fibers, which over time swirl around its head and turn into magical cotton candy. Those who eat this cotton candy are known to be able to see into the future momentarily. And I like to think that nobody loves their cotton candy hair more than the Psyduck themselves, which is why they always have a bite out of it. They always peck at each other's hair, and it's also why it looks like they've got lipstick on their bills. It's not lipstick, it's just cotton candy residue on their beaks. And I also liked how the cotton candy at the back droops down but pops back up to almost look like ponytails. Or is it pigtails? I don't know. I don't have the hair to know. And I also gave it eyelashes, again, just to make it kind of feminine, because most fairy types do lean on the feminine side. I'm not saying all fairy types are, but most of them do. The same with being pink. This is basically when Sun and Moon first announced regional variants. I imagine this is what some people would imagine Psyduck to be, because those early regional variants were relatively simple compared to the regional variants we see nowadays. If you've seen the previous episodes, you'll know how crazy some of the different Psyduck types were, so it's nice to just kind of snap back to reality, whoops, there goes gravity, and just create some nice, simpler Psyducks. And here is the fairy type Psyduck. I hope it was worth the rambling. You'll have to let me know what you think of it. Now let's jump into a new Psyduck with a brand new type, the Cosmic type. In Pokemon, there's a lot of Pokemon based around the cosmic or space ideas, and they're typically paired with the Psychic type. So most Pokemon fans believe that adding a Cosmic type would undermine those Psychic types to a degree. So I believe the idea why most space-themed Pokemon have the Psychic type is because of the connection with the otherworldly knowledge. That's why they're the Psychic type. So instead of making the Cosmic the knowledge of other worlds, it's specifically a type from the other worlds. You could almost say these are the Pokemon from outer space, what have lived and evolved to adapt and survive in outer space, right? Am I thinking too deep about this? It's very possible. Either way, let's start drawing it. So the thought here was a rock cosmic type based around asteroids. I was thinking instead of it being a space regional variant, I don't know how that would even work, this is more of a convergent form where it's a different species, it just so happens to look like a Psyduck. I imagine they like to just float around aimlessly in space, and they get curious about other planets, so they zip around space, just admiring other planets, and occasionally get a little too curious and they get caught in the atmosphere and they crash down into the planet, just like an asteroid. So I wonder if these were in a game, the only way you could find them is by doing stargazing, and eventually if you saw a shooting star, there'd be the professor what explains, that's not actually a shooting star, that's just a falling cosmic Psyduck. And then you zoom in onto the shooting star and it's just a Psyduck just screaming as it falls down into the atmosphere. Poor little guy. I like how its outer body is basically a shell made of the asteroids, protecting its inner magical core, with some of it spewing out to create its limbs and head thing. It's like a thought bubble. What's he thinking of? Ways to get back home, I imagine. I like to think that these spend their time following Miniors and trying to follow them as they float back up into the sky, but they're too heavy to. The only thing I'm unsure about this was the eyes. I made the eyes almost too normal. They're just white with black little dots, and that is Psyduck. I just don't know if that would, why isn't it also magically space gaseous like the rest of its body? Who knows, but regardless, I really like how this one turned out. I like how I made its whole body all wavy and gaseous, and I like the asteroid shells and the depth I made in all the little holes. I'm very proud of how this one came out. I'm not sure, but I kind of like the idea that its purpley insides can shift colour based on what it eats, or maybe the idea is because it follows Miniors all the time, maybe it eats the Miniors? Oh gosh. And it changes colour based on what colour of Minior it ate? That's a bit morbid, isn't it? Anyway, this is the cosmic rock type Psyduck. I didn't think of a name yet. I'm sure I will eventually. Let me know what you think. I really like this one. Now let's move on to the final Psyduck, the dark type Psyduck. To be honest, I was kind of spoilt with choice here. My first thought was a vampire Psyduck. The other one was make it like a Psygoose, because geese are known to be rather vicious. I mean, ducks themselves are relatively dark creatures, so maybe doing something based on that. I don't think that'd be child-friendly in a video, though. So whilst brainstorming dark-related things, what may give you headaches, my mind thought of Cthulhu. Cthulhu being a very famous fictional character written by H.P. Lovecraft, a cosmic great one. And viewing him, I believe it rather kills you or it drives you insane immediately. Like, Cthulhu is this great dark lord from a different dimension, so your mind physically can't comprehend the implications of his existence, so you rather die or you go mad. So yeah, Cthulhu's a little hardcore. And because Psyduck is always meant to be a being always wrathed with headaches, what if I created a Cthulhu Psyduck which always gave everybody else a headache? Last episode, we made a Psyduck what was meant to be for a hypothetical Pokemon game based on microbiology. So this could be a Pokemon game based on H.P. Lovecraftian lore. Or this is like a Ultra Beast where it's just a Psyduck from a different dimension, what literally just drives everybody else insane. It could be either or. Although I believe the Cthulhu mythos isn't specifically biblical, I did still intentionally make it somewhat satanic in design, a sentence I never expected to say in regards to drawing Psyducks, mostly because I think it's easier to pick up on the dark nature if it looks somewhat satanic. And the original idea before I settled on basing this off Cthulhu, it was more meant to be a biblically accurate Psyduck. So there's still a few leftover bits like that, such as the imprint on its forehead, the multiple arms, and the tentacles piercing out of its head what look like devil horns. It's more a chimera of Cthulhu design and satanic design, which I think combine well to make it look even more crazy and messed up. Again, the whole point of this creature is it gives people headaches, so it's meant to purposefully be weird to look at. It's meant to take you a minute to digest what it actually is and what it looks like. I think one of the only problems is it doesn't look too much like a Psyduck, so it's why I gave it the 3-piece hair, just to make it, bring it back to a bit more Psyduck, because other than the head and body shape, and the feet, I guess, it's not incredibly obviously a Psyduck. I also don't know how I feel about the colours. Originally, I was thinking of making the colours more traditional Psyduck, where it's like a slightly yellowy orange and then a pale But then I thought, well, Cthulhu's typically shown to be green, and, you know, satanic imagery is typically bright red, and I thought those two colours would clash a lot, so maybe make a very, again, disturbing Psyduck to look at. You'll have to know what you think of the colours, or if I should change them, or even shiny ideas, if you got them. So here is the Dark Lord himself. Again, I don't have a name for it yet. Maybe Cthulhu? Probably not. I'm not sure if I should make it a dark dragon or just a pure dark or dark psychic because it gives other people headaches. You'll have to let me know. And for the record, one of the reasons this Psyduck has 4 arms is just because that's how an artist depicted it. I like the idea that looking at this being is so hard to process, so hard to concentrate on. You look at it and 1 second its arms are small and holding its head, and then like you blink for a second and its arms now extend upwards to the sky, and then you blink your eyes again and they're right in front of you holding your own head or something. Like, it's so impossible to comprehend where this creature's arms are that artists typically depict it with just 4 arms, 2 holding its head and 2 in front of it. I thought that made for a cool design, and you'll have to let me know what you think, and you'll have to let me know what you think of all of them. So with that, we've now scratched off electric, fighting, the other half of fairy, dark type, cosmic, and rock, which now just leaves no types. Oh, I guess we did it. I made a Psyduck of every type. But we can't just end the series like that, can we? Well, we could, but I'm not going to. You'll tune in for next episode, which should be released a month from the release of this one, where we tie the series up with a cute little bow, and I rank all 24 Psyducks I've drawn in this series. So if you want to catch up on those series, feel free to check out the playlist, and you can decide for yourself which ones are your favourite, and you can see next month if they're my favourite as well. Thank you all folks for making this far. Again, let me know what you liked, let me know what you didn't like, and let me know which one's your favourite, or don't, because I'll probably ask the same thing next episode anyway. But either way folks, I'll let you all enjoy the rest of your day, or if you're off to bed, have the sweetest of dreams, and I'll see you all in a bit. Toodaloo, bye!